Recording is started, and in the chat I'm just writing starting, so we know we are starting. Okay, so just before the break we have created one static retention policy, and the retention policies are a little different than label retention policies. That label retention policies apply labels, but the simple retention policies just apply to the containers that where that policies will work, and are a little different than the previous ones. Okay, so what we are doing, the next topic, that in the policies and in the retention policies we just created one static policy, and now we want to create a adaptive policy. So the process starts the similar way, but in between there will be a little bit difference. We will see how it will work. So we just reached onto this page. You successfully created a retention policy. Now from here we can also go ahead, create another retention policy, or create an adaptive scope, or create a retention label. Label is different thing that we have tried already. Scope we have already tried, but scope is both applied into the retention policies and into the label retention policies, and necessarily it's the same thing, but just for as a practice, I'll do it once again, because if we do not have any scope created, we will not be able to complete our adaptive retention policy. So let's start with retention policy and see where we will need the scope. We will go back and create a scope. Create another retention policy, get started. So as usual, the name of the policy, this one we want to give any time, like say 10 years adaptive retention policy. For week 12. Okay, so just it's a practice, so let's write 12 both places, so keep it just easy to remember, and we make this for 12 years. So we click on next, and on this page we select adaptive. Before we selected static, now we select adaptive, okay, and then we click next, and we will see that we need to add a scope in it. We can click here, and then we see we'll need a scope. So first we go and create a scope. How about that? Okay, let me just go back and save the name. So we give a similar name to the scope also. So now we want to create a scope. So what we can do, we can just duplicate this tab, and we will see it will go back to main page. There we can create the scope, adaptive scopes. Click on it. And we'll see some scopes are already there. We want to create one more. Create a scope. 12 years adaptive retention policy scope for week 12. I will just like to remove this retention policy, because then will be a little bit similarity confusion that what is. So this is only the scope, that was the policy. Scope is used in the policy. Next. So scope we want to depend upon the users in the scope, like whichever users we include, that will be into the scope. or SharePoint sites? Okay, that is easy question actually. So I just select the SharePoint site. That means that this site that comes into this scope should be applied this policy. Okay, groups, that also similar thing, but let's start with the SharePoint sites. We go next, and here we can give a query to satisfy that which sites we want to apply this scope. This time I will just add property is the site name, and similarly is starts with value that site or week, then the number of week. Okay, so whichever site is starting like this, that should be included into this policy. We want to apply this scope onto that policy. Okay, so let's say, for example, we want to create more. For example, if I created a site that is not with the similar name, but by mistake I created a site like week 12 site, for example. So what we will do, we can add another property with and or. This time we want or. Property is the same, site name. Starts with this the same, but the value is the different, week. Like if there will be a site like week 11 site, so that will be also included in this one. So this will be our query, and then we click on next. So the name is this one, review and finish, and description is this one, type is site, and query summary is here. Site title starts with a site for week, or site title starts with week. So this will be our scope. Okay, so we click on submit and see if the system is able to create this scope. Yeah, the scope is created, and we go there and see if we want to keep the picture for the scope also, or just the picture for the policy. We started from here and we reached up to here, adaptive policy scope. Then we reached here, we need a new scope, and we went back and we created a scope like this, and it was created. Then we want to keep a copy of the scope also. Okay, that's no problem. We are here already, not given, clicked on done. If we click, then we can just show the list of the scopes. So we take the picture of this page that is showing that we have created a scope recently. Your scope was created successfully. Control C, and here Control V. This is the name, and it shows that a scope is created for adaptive retention policy. Okay, so this is another picture. This is already there, and we have completed our picture number 7. Let me just see if everything is fine. Mic is working, sharing is working, recording is working, and we don't have yet any question in the chat window. Everything looks fine. So any questions you can write in the chat window, or you can unmute your mic and then speak it out. And picture number 7 is completed. So now we see, just wait a minute, take a sip of tea. Meanwhile, you see if you can complete your work, or if you have any questions, you can put forward. Just I'll wait till the next minute. We have completed to create a scope for our adaptive retention policy. Okay. So we go to next topic, adaptive retention policies. Now use this scope to complete the creation of the adaptive retention policy. Yes, we have created the scope. We now can complete our creation of the adaptive retention policy. We were here. We just want to add this scope. We click on the add scope and see what happened in the list of the scopes. That 12 years adaptive scope for week 12 is already here. Sorry. We click on this one and we click on add. So system automatically recognizes that we are talking about the SharePoint sites, and because in this adaptive scope we were only talking about the SharePoint sites, so this will apply on the SharePoint sites. So we click on next. For how long we want to keep, here we will use custom. We want to give 12 years. So it's here 12 years from when the item was created. We click on when item were last modified. Delete items automatically. As I have explained before, this thing is a little dangerous object. If we are sure that we want to delete all the things of these sites in 12 years, of course, in real life is a different scenario. Right now, we know that because our sites will be anyway deleted in 30 to 90 days. But if it's a paid subscription and we are in a real life, we are in a company, this thing has its applications, but we have to be very careful that which sites we want to delete after this much time. Just delete, then we can set this setting. Then we can click on next. This is a review page. This is the policy name, description, selected scope is this one, location to apply is SharePoint sites, and retention setting, the query is retain items for 12 is based on when they were last modified, and delete item at the end of the retention period. And if we want to edit scope, we can edit it, or whatever we want to edit, we can edit here, and then we can click on submit. Of course, system is saying that items that are currently older than 12 years will be permanently deleted. Yeah, this policy works like that. We click on submit, and system is trying to create this one. We see if it's created. Yeah, it's successfully created. You could successfully created a retention policy. So this page will be our picture for the retention policy. The previous picture also can be the page to show that we are creating a policy, or if we click done, then we can show the list of the policies to show that we have created a policy. But this time we keep this list and picture of this success page. I'm just going through these slides. Yes, we have created, and this was our review and finish page. This time I have another picture example to show that we have created a new policy. But the previous page is better because that also shows it's an adaptive, because it has scope included in it. If the scope is included in the policy, it means it's an adaptive one. But if we are not able to keep that page, this one, see here it shows adaptive scope, then we can keep this one or the list of the policies like this one. So this is a picture that is showing a new adaptive retention policy is created. A new adaptive retention policy is created. And this will be our picture number 8. Just I want to check. Yeah, we started the recording, so it's almost 16 minutes. We started after 8 o'clock. Yes, mic is working. Everything looks fine. So this was our picture number 8 for today. And I just wait a minute to see if there is any question. Otherwise, we go to our next topic. Okay, so we go to our next topic. We have just completed creating a new adaptive retention policy. This policy is retention policy, not a label retention policy. This policy just works on the containers directly, and previously we were working with label retention policies that work with the help of the labels, not specifically only related with the containers. So the next topic, this is just the list of the retention policies. Here we have retention policies, and here we have label retention policies. And now one topic we will continue from the previous week. When the time was completed, we just created a scope, but we were not able to complete the creation of an adaptive retention policy, adaptive label retention policy. So that we will create today and keep in the picture of today's assignment. We have reached up to picture number 8. So we have 2 more pictures. So one will be this one, adaptive label retention policy. We created a static label retention policy, and it's very similar, but just a little bit different, that we have to select label also in this one. So we will just create one and see how it works. We can start from here. No, this is the retention policy. We want to create a label retention policy. So we click on done. And here on the information governance main page, we have label policies also. So we go to our label policy. And here we create one more label policy that will be an adaptive label policy. So we just create one and see all the steps. Okay, label policies are, publisher label actually needs to create a policy. So it's instead of creating a label policy, it is mentioned that publish a label. So then we click on the publish a label. So we will see the process that policy will be created. Choose label to publish, which label we want to publish. Choose the label. We click on the choose the label, and then we will have a list of the labels that we want to create. Retention label 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, 7 years, 12 years, whichever we want to create. Let's keep this time 12 years. Okay, we click on add. So this is the label that we want to start with creating a policy. And we click on the next. So this time we are creating adaptive label retention policy. So we click on adaptive, then we click on the next, and here we need a scope. Either we can select from the existing scopes as we have, or if we don't have that we want to add, then we can create another scope. For example, let's use the same scope that we have created before, adaptive scope for our policy, retention policy. We can use the same scope for our label policy. We can use the same, but if we like, we can create the new one also. Okay, let's choose this one. We click on add. And here we will see that the scope is added here already, and system recognizes that it's about the SharePoint sites. So we can click on the next and see the next step is naming our policy. See here, the system is now talking about the policy before we started with publishing the label. So we click on control. It's not coming. We can go back and then no, we cannot see that. Okay, we can just write. Sorry, here we can copy this one and then go to next, and then we give a related name here. 12 years adaptive scope. We write here 12 years adaptive label retention. Sorry, the label is different spelling here, so it's the right time. Label retention policy for week 12. Control A, Control C. Just copy here the description. 12-year adaptive label retention policy for week number 12. So let's click next and we will reach on the finish page. Here we are. It will take up to 1 day, the system says, for label to appear to your users. Labels will appear in Outlook and Outlook web app only for mailboxes that have at least 10 megabytes of data. And choose label to publish. This is the label, and we can change also. And here is SharePoint sites, we can change also. Select scope, we can change also here, edit, and name, of course, in description we can change. We can take a copy of this page to show that we are going to create an adaptive label policy. If we can take it, let me see if we have a picture for our assignment related with this creation. We have completed this page and this page. And next, I have kept this is picture number 9, but this is a list of the policies, label policies. We can use this picture or this picture or this picture. This time I'm keeping this one. So I go back and take picture of this site, this page, and keep there. It actually shows that this is a label policy, And this is an adaptive policy because we have a scope here and we have a label here. Control C. And here in picture number 9, I will copy it. Control V. Okay, here it will show the name, our name, and here it will show, picture will show that new adaptive label retention policy is successfully created. So this picture will show that new adaptive label policy, retention policy is successfully created. Sometimes system just says label policy. I'm just writing here label retention policy to more clarify it that it is a label retention policy. And of course, a little bit more explanation. It's not retaining the labels, but it's retaining the items those are labeled with that label. Okay, so we have tested also before that if we create a label and apply it to our document that we want to create it for like any time, then we cannot delete it directly from there without removing the label. Because this is the retention policy, then that item will be retained. Okay. So this is our picture number 9 that we have completed. We have created a new adaptive label retention policy. If any question, you guys can forward that question. I'll just wait a minute and then we'll go ahead for the next topic. Let me see meanwhile that everything is working fine. Recording is working and participants, nobody is waiting. Chat is fine, no questions yet. Okay, everything is good, so we can go to the next topic. Before that, we have just completed to creating a label policy, label retention policy, adaptive label retention policy that applies a scope query to apply on the items that we have this time selected. The sites with the specific name, this policy will apply to those. Okay, the next topic is also in the compliance. There is menu item alerts. We will see that this is now moved to the next level and we can go from here or we can go from its own page and we will see how we can use them, what is the benefit of them. Let's go back to our site. If we click, sorry, the submit is remaining yet. I just click on submit and then the policy will be submitted and created. If everything goes fine and system is able to create it, yes, your retention label policy. Yeah, the message is your retention label was published. Before, the system said that it takes almost a day to the label to make the label available for the users, but it is created, it is published in the process, and we can click on done, and then we can go for the next task. Still in the compliance, here we have alerts. We click on alerts and see System says mail flow alerts have moved to the new Exchange Admin Center. Customers are now be able to create, view, edit mail flow alerts in the new Exchange Admin Center. So we can try it now. Click on this link, then we will be there in the Exchange Admin Center. And specifically, we have many items here. This is the mail flow. We can click on it. Message trace, we can see. Of course, other items are also there, but right now we will just see message trace. I mean that we have a query. Alerts is here, but basically it is that we can use alerts. If we click, we don't have any data to see actually our alerts. So in the mail flow topic, we can message the trace. Whichever mails coming, going, we can make the rules. The default query rules are also here. We can make custom queries also. Auto-saved queries will be that if you are creating and saving the queries, downloadable reports. So these are the default queries. So these are also helpful. Message sent from my primary domain in the last day. We can click this one, or messages received by my primary domain in the last day. So this is the query here. New message trace query is already here. Senders all, and recipients is this one. And this is the time range, like 1 day. So delivery status all, message ID, we don't write anything. This direction, we just write all. Original client IP address, we don't give any address. And summary report. So we click on search and we will see that message trace query result will be here. So these queries, these messages reach to this mailbox. Means the main organization. So all the mail boxes. So it is sent by it is delivered and sent by, I believe, Microsoft. Yeah, sender is the Microsoft Office 365. And all these messages were received yesterday. See, that was actually the query. If we go and change the query, we can see more results or fewer results as we change the query settings. For example, if we go back, message trace, and click here, this is last day, message, pending delivery, all quarantine messages, all failed messages. Like for example, we click on this one and then later we change it. We click on start trace and see here we have the option to change. For example, here is we click on 7 days, like 7 days and all senders and all recipients, okay, in our system, and summary report, then we see what happens. So now we have more because for 7 days it's here. So these messages were received from Microsoft, and these were the recipients. This was the subject, and was somewhat delivered. There is one failed also, this one. We can even see the message here also, that not delivered, how to fix it, all the related information. Okay. So this is the result from message trace. Message trace is like the list of the messages that we want to see from with our query, that we can set many things, that time span, or from a user, specific user, or to a specific user, or whichever query setting we want to give. But this is the message trace search result for one of the queries, and we will keep it for our assignment to save for our assignment. Let's go back to PowerPoint slides and see that what we have covered and which picture next we need to create. Message trace, yes, we selected one of the default queries, and we also changed the time from 2 days to 7 days. And here is the picture 10 message trace search results. We will create it shortly. Before that, I want to show you just a few more options. Here, if we just go back to message trace, we can start another query. These are default queries that are already here. We can customize the query also. Those are also similar process. The process is similar. We click on custom query, and we just start a trace. Click first start a trace. Then we click on sender. We can copy here, mention here whichever sender we want to, and recipients, whoever. Like for example, I write my username, ms at, yeah, it came already here. So we want to see the emails for only this recipients. Let's see what happens. And for 2 days or for 7 days, let's see for 7 days. And delivery status all, and message ID we don't want to give, direction, original client, I will know anything. Summary report, yes, we want to click on yes. So this is our custom query report actually. And yeah, to this user, we got from Microsoft these emails. So this is the message trace search result is here, and we can just take a picture of this item, this page, and then we can keep it for our assignment. So I'm just going to take a picture of this page. You guys can take a picture of your message trace search result, and then can keep for the assignment. This is one picture. I'm just keeping another picture here. Here we'll show the name. So this is my username. When you will take picture of your work, you will show your name here, first name, last name. And this picture is showing that message trace search result. And we are just first time in the Exchange Admin Center, and we have used one very helpful feature that we can trace the messages that were sent to us, and we can also edit the query and tailor it as we like, from where we want to see the messages or to where we want to see the messages. And then the system will go and query from the message trace and show the results for the messages. So this will be our picture number 10, message trace search results. And for today, this is the picture number 10 for our assignment. Keep it, if you cannot make your own, then you can write the reason and then you can take the picture, the class picture. But this is easy topic and you guys can easily reach there on Exchange Admin Center and just query the message trace search, message trace, and then you can take a picture of the message trace search results and you can put it here for the assignment. If you guys have any question, you can put it forward. Today we have completed a little bit earlier because I have not copied some of the topics that we just want to study because I was getting late into the time. But that we can study right now, just a little bit more information. I have just written there, just get the information, read the information from the web. But we can go there right now together and go through some little information pages. I will show you where I have noted. Like for example, this topic that was retention policies. Retention policies and label retention policies are a little different. So if we copy this link and go to our browser and paste it over there, we can see the little bit more information about this topic. Create and configure retention policies. So use a retention policy to manage the data for your organization by deciding proactively whether to retain content, delete content, or retain and then delete the contents. A retention policy lets you do this very efficiently by assigning the same retention settings at the container level. See, this is important. Retention policies depend upon the containers level to be automatically inherited by content in that container. Yeah, the policy is inherited by the contents, those are in that container. For example, all items in the SharePoint sites, all email messages in the user exchange mailboxes, and all channel messages for Teams that are used with Microsoft Teams. And if we are not sure, then we can see the retention policies and retention labels. We can read this topic also. Then we can read more about the difference of these two. But of course, as I have explained, that retention labels are defined and the retention label policies are applied with the help of labels that we apply to the documents or wherever we want to apply that apply to list or these things. But the retention policies, only retention policies, those depend upon the container. Directly for the container level, we can define that policy. And before we begin, there is also some prerequisites. But the global admin for your organization has full permission to create and edit retention policies. If you are not signing in as global admin, see the permissions. There is a global admin at least, or admins, of course, site admins. Decide before you create the retention policy whether it will be adaptive or static. Yeah, that we have discussed already. Adaptive policies have scopes that are like queries that apply to the containers or where we want to apply. Like for example, we have given a site name query that if the site is starting from this thing, and static, just we give right away that where we want to apply those. And we can see more details of this information also here. See adaptive or static policies, scopes for the retention. And if we want to decide to create an adaptive policy, we must create one or more adaptive scopes before you create your retention policy. And then we can select them during the creation of the retention policy that we have seen already and how it works. And then create and configure the retention policy. Locations where it works are here that we have seen already, that exchange emails, all this list of the things we have seen already, that these locations are supported. These are more than the label policies. Label policies does not apply all of these, only apply to a subset of these. The next rules is here that if you select the teams or Yammer locations, when you create a retention policy, the other locations are automatically excluded. This means that the instructions to follow depend on whether you need to include the teams or Yammer locations. Yes, some of these objects, they cannot go together in one policy. If we want to apply similar policy on both of those, on those that cannot go together, then we have to create, of course, more than one policy and then apply to those one by one. And here we have the note also that when you use adaptive policies instead of static policies, you can configure a single retention policy to include both teams and Yammer locations. That isn't the case for the static policies, where teams and Yammer locations require their own retention policies. We can give that in adaptive policies that both we can use into single one. Okay, so this information I would like to include into our file. See what I have included before, just the first paragraph, and then we can add some more slides. Then I will add a little bit more information. As usual, that information that you will find in the slides in the exam, we are now left with only the final exam. There are chances, because I just study the slides when I am making the questions for your exam. So then information that you will find in the slides, the exam consists of the questions from that contents. Okay, so just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm leaving only these pages. I'll save this file. And we are at 8:51. So recording is going on. We have 50 minutes recording. So let's stop it here and we take a break of almost 10 minutes and then we'll come back in 10 minutes. So I will stop the recording, then mute the mic, stop sharing, and just write in the chat that 10 minutes break.